I stood in the bathroom, listening to the hot water running over my skin, feeling the stress of the day evaporate with the steam. Dylan and I had been dating for almost 2 years now, and although we had our little arguments like everyone else, I still believed that we were moving in the right direction. Lately, he often seemed tired and withdrawn, and I, trying to support him, turned a blind eye to some of his oddities. As I was soaping my hair, my phone vibrated on the shelf next to the mirror. I glanced at it and saw a notification from our Ring camera by the front door. An image of a delivery man handing a paper bag to Dylan appeared on the screen. My chest warmed as he ordered us dinner. It was just like him when he was in a good mood. The small, spontaneous gestures that always seemed like he cared. I even smiled, imagining pizza or maybe sushi waiting for us. After finishing my shower, I quickly put on my shorts and a t-shirt and went into the living room. Dylan was sitting on the couch, controller in hand, eyes glued to the screen. He was so immersed in the game that he barely noticed me entering. "Hi," I said, smiling. "Thanks for dinner, by the way. What did you order?" He didn't even take his eyes off the TV. "What?" he asked, absent-mindedly. "Well, I'm on my way. I saw the courier bringing the package." "Oh, that." He shrugged slightly. "I didn't order anything." I blinked, trying to comprehend what he had just said. "How is that possible?" "I saw you at the door. You took the bag." "You must be mistaken," he said, pressing buttons without even looking at me. At first I thought it was a joke. But when I went into the kitchen and opened the fridge, I found nothing new there. No bag, no box, no trace of the dinner. I was sure we were going to share. I opened the trash can, and there, right at the very top, was a crumpled paper package with the logo of the restaurant, where he usually orders his burgers. Something inside me twitched painfully. It's not just about food, I remembered. How I helped him pay fines, how I helped him out when he was deeply in debt, how I cooked dinners. While he couldn't leave the house, I always tried to act as a partner, to think for both of us. And it turns out that at that moment, he was thinking only about himself. I returned to the living room. "Seriously, you ordered food and didn't even think to get something for me." There was already a sharpness in my voice that I didn't try to hide. He finally looked up from his game and looked at me like I'd just asked something ridiculous. "I was just hungry," he said. "You were in the shower." "That's not an answer, Dylan." I clenched my hands into fists. "You could have waited a couple of minutes." "Well, I'm sorry I didn't read your mind." He turned back to the screen. I stood there looking at him, and at that moment something much greater than irritation about dinner was building up inside me. It was weariness from his indifference, from the little betrayals that accumulated like pebbles in my pockets, making each day heavier. And then a thought flashed through my head, which made me shudder. Maybe this is the very last straw. I stood at the edge of the carpet, as if on the border between two countries. Mine, where you can wait 3 minutes for dinner, and his, where there is no time for anyone but yourself. The irritation I was trying to swallow rose to my throat. But I didn't want to talk about the burger. I wanted to talk about why every time I say we, he hears I. "Dylan," I called more softly, "can we have a minute without playing?" He reluctantly pressed pause. His character froze on the screen, tense, ready to dash. It's funny. In the game he's ready. In life he's always busy. "What again?" he asked dryly. I sighed. "I saw the delivery guy bring the package on Ring. I saw you take it. I saw you throw the package away, and I hear you say you didn't order anything. This isn't about the food. This is about you lying to me, even when you could just tell the truth." He winced, as if I'd turned on a light that was too bright. "Oh my God, are you spying on me through the doorbell?" "Seriously, I'm not watching. We have shared access to the camera to receive deliveries." And yes, she sent a notification. I saw exactly what I saw. The question is, why are you lying? He leaned back on the sofa, put his hand behind his head, and pretended to think. I knew this gesture. Now the "you're complicating everything" theatre would begin. Okay. Yeah, I ordered a small burger and fries. I was hungry. You're in the shower. I figured you'd want something of your own anyway. That's it. Big drama. From a small thing, I looked at the empty jar of sauce in the trash. A small thing. It's curious how everything small was always subtracted from me. My time, my money, my food, my faith. You could have said that right away, I answered calmly. I was hungry and ordered myself. That's all. And what would that change? He shrugged. It would make a difference if I didn't feel like a fool and didn't think you thought I was stupid enough to miss the obvious. He snorted, reaching for the controller again. Let's not make a big deal out of it. You have PMS, I have a burger, 0. The words hit me with cold. I felt something tiny but important click inside me, like a thin bridge that held us over the abyss. Once we knew how to laugh at awkwardness. Now awkwardness became a weapon. You know, I said very quietly, when we were sorting out your fines, you said that you felt like a loser and were afraid to ask for help. And I helped you not because you asked, but because we are a team. I truly believed that "we" was more than just a word for you. Today I understand. You are not afraid to ask. You are afraid to admit that you owe someone something in return. He visibly tensed up. Oh, that's a cliché. I helped you. Now you're forever in debt. Will you bring the bills, accountant? I don't keep score, I answered reservedly. But I remember. And it hurts me that you don't remember anything. He chuckled and turned back to the screen. I'm tired. Can we just eat? There are some potatoes left. His eat made me feel physically uneasy. I caught myself gnawing the inside of my cheek, as if that would keep the tears from falling. Not because of the potatoes. Because of the habit of trying to convince myself not to feel, I went into the kitchen and poured myself some water. On the countertop lay our shared folder with documents, an insurance policy, an internet contract, receipts. Next to it, the phone was flashing, with a new message from Shah, the only person I allowed to see me without masks. Alive? Today you seem to be walking around in a glass jar, she wrote. I replied, a story about a burger and about a lie. A second later came. A lie is always about the future. It's small until it becomes a system. I stared at her words and felt them dig into my ribs. System. This is what it was. Little evasions, jokes instead of apologies, fog instead of directness. And all this time I dragged the relationship along, like a suitcase, with one broken wheel. It's impossible to go far when the same trrrr keeps ringing. I walked back into the living room. Dylan, let's do it this way, I said as calmly as I could. If you're tired of discussing it, okay. But then let's at least get this simple thing on the record. Next time you order food, you text me, want something, or I'll take it for myself, you. Deal? He rolled his eyes. Oh my God. Are we going to write a regulation now? Are we going to discuss this in Slack or just open a ticket in Jira? We will establish respect, I answered, and for the first time, I heard how firm my voice sounded. He grinned like a teenager, who'd been caught doing something stupid but decided it was best to pretend it was cool. Okay, next time I'll write. Happy? I wanted to say yes, but I couldn't, because next time is a promise from the future, which is convenient to seal the holes of the present, and the holes are still there. Let's review one more thing, I continued. Why did you say that you didn't order anything? That's the first reaction. Why not, yes, I ordered? He looked away. I don't know. A stupid habit. Like a defensive reaction. What were you defending yourself against? From the scene? He shrugged. You often flare up. I nodded. Maybe. But I flare up when I'm openly taken for an idiot. Not when honesty is asked for, but when it is replaced by sarcasm. I pulled out my phone, opened Ring, and rewound the recording, pausing the moment where he picks up the bag. On the screen, he looked tired and distracted. But something else caught my attention. The time code. The order was placed 5 minutes before I turned on the shower. That means he placed the order while I was standing at the sink, tying up my hair, chatting with him about the movie I was going to watch that evening. You could have just said, I'm going to order myself a snack. I might not have wanted to, but I'd know we were being honest. I showed him the screen. And don't pretend I made this up. It's a fact. He sighed, no longer mockingly. Okay, you're right. I didn't want to share. I wanted it quickly, right now, without discussion. The truth sounded simple. I caught myself waiting for it to get easier, but it didn't. It gets easier when someone not only admits, but also changes. And this is a recording of a confession, without a promise. You know, I said, once you asked me to be more patient because it's hard for you. I was for months. But patience is not the responsibility of another person to cover up your weaknesses. It's your work with yourself. He was sullenly silent. A door slammed somewhere in the entryway, and the sound echoed in the emptiness between us. I suddenly clearly saw our apartment from the outside. The sofa where he sits, my chair by the window, the table where we eat on weekends when I managed to pull him out of the game, and this invisible split diagonally across the room. My territory of worries, his territory of later. The phone blinked again. Char, if you want a reality test, ask for a simple one. Watch not words, but actions. I raised my head. Dylan, let's just do it now. Let's order dinner for 2. You. Click on repeat order. Add another dish for me. And yes, I know it's funny, but it'll be now instead of next time. Are you ready? He looked at me for a couple of seconds. Are you seriously going to make a demonstration out of this? I want to make a reality out of it, I replied. A small one, but a reality. He reluctantly unlocked his phone and scrolled through the screen. I stood nearby, in a strange silence, like a spectator at his own trial. He opened the delivery app, looked at me, and at that moment his eyebrows twitched slightly. It seems the restaurant is already closed for today, he said, and showed me the screen, where a grey button read, not available. I could have shrugged my shoulders and gone to the corners, but something in me forbade it. I took my phone, opened the same application. The restaurant was open, orders accepted until 2200. On my screen, the add button glowed green. That's strange, I said and showed it to him. He froze for a split second, and in that pause, I saw not confusion but calculation. Maybe I have an old version, he muttered, without looking up. A quiet wave rose inside me. Not rage, understanding. He didn't want to order anything from me, and he doesn't want to now. And this whole scene is not about potatoes, not about the app, not about the old version. It's about the choice he makes again and again, not to share, not to let in, not to acknowledge. I nodded slowly. Okay, then let's do it differently. I'll order for myself now, and you, for yourself, if you want. And let's honestly admit it, at least in words. We dine separately, living together. And this is not a problem of food, this is a problem of we. He looked at me, finally straight, without laughing. Are you saying you're thinking of leaving? I was surprised at how calm my answer sounded. I'm thinking out loud, for the first time in a long time. We stood there looking at each other. The room smelled of cold sauce and something else, the emptiness of unspoken sorries. I was already typing in my order when my phone vibrated again. Ring. A new delivery guy came up the stairs to our floor, and on the screen was a white package with the logo of another delivery. I glanced at Dylan. He suddenly flinched and put his phone in his pocket. "Did you order anything else?" I asked, feeling my heart speed up. "No," he said too quickly. I turned my gaze to the screen. The courier stopped at our door and reached for the doorbell. Click. The silence in the room became ringing. I realized now the door will open. And with it, everything that I am trying not to see will open. And if there is a package, not for us there, I will no longer need any next time. I almost physically felt how time slowed down in the room. The courier, frozen in the camera lens, seemed to be waiting not for a call, but for permission to enter someone else's life. A thought flashed through my head. If I open the door now, I will also open what I have been turning away from all this time. I slowly approached the door. Behind me, I heard Dylan mutter something, either an excuse or a warning, but I was no longer listening. The click of the lock, the slight creak of the hinges, and there he was, the courier, holding out a white bag with the clear logo of the bistro where Dylan and I used to go together only at the very beginning of our relationship. "An order for Dylan?" he asked. "Yes," I answered, although at that moment the word yes seemed like a death sentence. I picked up the bag, and the smell of fresh nuggets and hot noodles hit my nose. It was more than just food. It was another just for myself choice. I turned to Dylan, holding the bag like evidence. "So, again, didn't order anything?" He frowned, not like a man caught in a lie, but more like someone who is annoyed that his plan has been foiled again. He hesitated. "This is for tomorrow, so I don't have to cook." I laughed, not loudly, not angrily, rather quietly and bitterly, the way people laugh when they finally understand the scale of the situation. "For tomorrow? You know that tomorrow's noodles will be like rubber?" He shrugged like it didn't matter, and that's when it hit me. It wasn't that he didn't want to share. It was that he didn't think it was necessary to think about anyone but himself. And I could spend years trying to change that. But why? I put the bag on the table and sat down in a chair by the window. My heart was beating evenly, almost calmly. I watched him, as one watches a stranger whom one once knew closely, but now he is only a silhouette. "Dylan," I began, "do you know that I've spent more on you these last 2 years than I've spent on myself? Not just money, time, energy, patience. I was there when you had no job, no friends, no plan for what to do next. I helped you get up." "So what?" His voice was cold. "Do you want me to get on my knees and say thank you?" "No," I answered. "I want you to at least once take a step towards me. Without sarcasm, without later, without lies. Just honestly and truly." He turned to the TV, pressed a button on the remote, and the room filled with the sounds of the game. This gesture was more eloquent than any words. The conversation was over, at least for him. I closed my eyes and let my thoughts flow. I remembered our first meeting in a coffee shop, how he then sheepishly treated me to a latte, although, as he later admitted, he only had $12 left in his account. I remembered how he joked that he would never leave someone who bought him a burger on the first night. And now, 2 years later, the burger has become a symbol of what separated us. The phone vibrated again. A message from Char. "Are you ready to admit that your expectations and his reality are not the same?" I looked at the screen, then at Dylan. "Yes, I am." That evening, I went to bed earlier than usual. Not because I was tired, but because I didn't want to sit next to him on the couch, pretending that everything was okay. Lying in the dark, I heard him open the package, the crunch of the potatoes and the quiet rustling of the bag of noodles. Each sound was like a small blow, reminding me that tomorrow morning I would wake up in the same apartment, but in a different relationship. I knew this conversation was coming, but I didn't know I would start it tomorrow. At dawn, I woke up from the silence. He was still asleep, and I was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and thinking that perhaps, for the first time in a long time, I was breathing deeply. I took out my laptop, opened a tab with rental ads, and started looking at apartment options. It was like an escape plan, but without haste. I didn't know yet how I would tell him, but I knew that the moment he closed himself off behind a shield of sarcasm and petty lies was the point of no return. There was only one question left. Should I arrange a quiet exit, or open the door wide and say everything that had accumulated? The answer came in the evening, when I saw that he had again placed an order via delivery, and again only for himself. I realized this time I will open the door. And not only to the courier, he came home with a bag from the store and, as usual, walked past me as if I were part of the interior. I was sitting at the table with a cup of tea, but inside I was already seething, not from anger, but from readiness. I knew today we would not play a silent comedy about everything is fine. Today I will dot the I's. Dylan, I called as he set the bag on the kitchen counter. We need to talk. He stopped but didn't turn around. Again, we've already discussed everything. No, we only discussed the burger. But the burger is not a problem. It's a symbol of how you live close to each other, but not together. He sighed and turned around, leaning against the counter. Okay, so let's say you're right. Now what? Do you want me to bring you a fry every time I get one for myself? Or do you want me to call first thing if I'm going to do something? I want us to be a team, I said, looking straight into his eyes. Not in Instagram posts, not in conversations with friends, but in life. So that you see me not as a backdrop, but as a person. So that I stop hiding behind sarcasm and petty lies. He took a step back, as if my words were a physical blow. What if I can't do that? What if I'm just not like that? I fell silent. The question sounded honest, but the honesty in it was not in the willingness to change, but in the admission that he was not going to. And that was perhaps the clearest thing he said during our entire conversation. Then perhaps it's time for us to admit that we want different things, I said quietly. I want to build. You want to live without change. I want we. And you want me. He sat down abruptly in his chair and ran his hand over his face. Are you seriously going to end this all over food? I chuckled. No. I'm going to end this because you don't understand. It was never about food. It was about respect. It was about honesty. It was about how in your world I always come second. He was silent for a long time. At that moment, I remembered how many times I waited for words from him. Forgive me. Thank you. I appreciate it. But they never came. And I realized that I didn't want to live another year, another 5, waiting. I'll look for a new apartment, I said, standing up. Don't worry. I'll do everything calmly, without drama. And that's it? He looked up at me, not remorsefully, but rather surprised that I had actually gone all the way. That's it, I repeated, because I need a partner, not a self-service roommate. I went into the bedroom and started packing my things in a suitcase. Not everything, just what I needed for now. I'll take the rest later. I heard him walking around the kitchen, slamming the refrigerator door, turning on the TV. Not a single stay, not a single attempt to fix anything. It was strangely calm, like in a movie, where you already know how it will all end. When the suitcase was closed, I took it by the handle, walked through the living room. He didn't even turn around. At the door, I put on my shoes and jacket. The courier, walking up the stairs with another package, politely stepped back, letting me through. This time for both of you, he asked jokingly, looking at me, I smiled. Sincerely, for the first time in many days, no. This time only for him, I stepped out into the chilly evening air, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like dinner would actually be for me. Even if I ordered it myself. Even if I ate it in an empty room. Because, it would be honest, And there was more warmth in that honesty than in any burger he'd ever brought home.